In the dead of night, on a lonely stretch of the LA freeway, a massive truck carrying millions in cargo is about to be hunted. But these aren't ordinary thieves. They don't use roadblocks. They use precision speed and a style of driving so ghost-like the law can't even see them coming. Tonight, the asphalt will scream, and a masked bandit is about to prove that if you're fast enough, you can vanish into thin air. It's 4 a.m. on the 110 freeway, a canyon of glass and steel, silent except for the heavy haulers. A trucker hums to the radio, unaware that 3 black-on-black Honda Civics are closing in like sharks. As they enter a long tunnel, the trucker's CB radio goes dead. Suddenly, a masked bandit emerges through a sunroof with a spear gun. Thwack! A heavy anchor pierces the windshield, yanking the glass right out of its frame. The bandit launches himself onto the moving truck's grill and hurls a chemical grenade into the cab. As the driver slumps over, the bandit takes the wheel and straightens the rig just inches before it jackknifes. Within minutes, the million-dollar haul vanishes into the industrial shadows of the LA River, leaving police to find nothing but an empty container and a CPR dummy mockingly left in the driver's seat. As the city wakes, we meet Brian, a golden boy pushing a green Toyota Supra to its breaking point at Dodger Stadium. He's desperate for a 10-second quarter mile, but his car backfires and spins out in a cloud of smoke. Brian isn't just a gearhead. He's a man on a mission. He heads to Toretto's lunch counter to charm Mia Toretto, but his real target is her brother, the legendary street racer Dominic Toretto. However, the underground doesn't welcome outsiders. A rival racer named Vince picks a fight with Brian that ends in a brutal street brawl. Dom Toretto explodes from the back room, pistol whipping Brian and banning him from the neighborhood. But Brian doesn't look defeated. He looks like a man who just found his way in. The air is thick with tension as Brian is pulled over by police later that day. But this isn't an arrest, it's a briefing. Brian Earl Spiller is actually Officer Brian O'Connor, an undercover cop tasked with infiltrating the street racing scene to catch the hijackers. His superiors believe Dom Toretto is the key, and Brian needs a race to prove it. That night at the LA Coliseum, hundreds of racers gather for the illegal midnight drags. Brian arrives in his Supra and bets his car's title against Dom in a high-stakes race. The drag is a jittering blur of nitrous and adrenaline. Brian pushes his Supra so hard the floor plating pops off, but Dom is a mad scientist, shifting with mechanical precision to win by a hair. Brian loses his car, but he finds a better opening when the police raid the race. He saves Dom from a police perimeter, performing insane maneuvers to vanish into the night. Dom finally offers Brian respect, saying he owes him one, but the night turns deadly in Long Beach when they're surrounded by Trans motorcycle crew. To mark his territory, Pete's man Lance shreds Brian's Supra with a machine gun and sets it on fire. Brian's ticket into Dom's world literally explodes. Brian is now deep inside the Toretto family. He brings a battered Nissan 240SX to Dom's garage to repay his debt, and they begin rebuilding it into a 10-second car. As they work, Brian falls for Mia, and the lines between his badge and his heart begin to blur. Dom takes Brian to a secret warehouse to show him a 90 Buick Regal, a 900-horsepower monster he and his father built. Dom confesses he's never driven it because it scares him. It's the same car his father died in during a race. Dom lives his life a quarter mile at a time because for those 10 seconds, nothing else matters. Driven by duty, Brian breaks into Pete Tran's garage and finds high-end electronics, convinced he's found the hijacker's stash. Brian's intel leads to a massive SWAT raid on Pete Tran's family home. Brian's right there in a black mask, dropping a knee on Pete's neck. But the victory turns into a disaster. The electronics were legally purchased, and Pete Tran's crew is released with no charges. Brian is disgraced and placed on home duty. At Race Wars, the truth finally catches up. Jesse, the crew's tech genius, loses his father's car to Pete Tran in a race and flees in terror. Pete confronts Dom, accusing him of being a snitch, and a massive brawl erupts. In the chaos, Brian finds a spear gun tip in Dom's camp. The Toretto crew are the hijackers. Dom, Vince, Letty, and Leon vanish to pull one last heist. Brian realizes the truckers are now armed and waiting in a trap. To save Dom's life, Brian is forced to confess to a heartbroken Mia, "I'm a cop." The heist is a bloodbath. A trucker with a shotgun pins Vince to the rig's grill, shredding his arm. Pete Tran and Lance appear on backs, seeking revenge. Brian and Mia arrive just as the rig is dragging a mutilated Vince to his death. Brian stands through the sunroof at 100 miles per hour, grabbing Vince in a death-defying rescue. To save Vince's life, Brian calls in a police medevac, exposing his true identity to a betrayed Dom. Before the law can act, Pete Tran's crew performs a drive-by on the Toretto house, killing Jesse on the front lawn. Dom doesn't wait for justice. He chases them down in his father's Buick, and Brian follows. After a final shootout that leaves Pete Tran dead, Dom and Brian find themselves at a red light, the quarter-mile stretch from their high school days. A freight train is approaching. When that light turns green, "I'm going for it," Dom says. They launch, engines screaming, clearing the tracks by an inch as the train thunders behind them. But a truck pulls out, and Dom's Buick hits it, flipping into a violent roll. Brian runs to the wreckage. Dom is alive, but the sirens are closing in. Brian looks at the keys to his Nissan and hands them to Dom. "I owe you a 10-second car." Dom vanishes into the horizon, leaving Brian alone in the dust, an officer who lost his career but finally found a family.
Thanks for watching, and for more videos, like, subscribe our channel, also give comments.